It seems to be connecting. It looks like it's connected. I'm going to hit go live on Facebook. Okay, fingers crossed, everyone. Let's see. I feel like it is running. Maybe. We'll see. A little bit of a lag. Still setting up a little bit while we test our technology. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like we have sound. It's been verified. If you are watching a recording, we are starting about 10 minutes early, so do fast forward about 10 minutes because, as you may know, we've had technology issues all week long. It's been, what has it been, 9 days. So bear with us. We're just going to logging on early to see what happens here. Yep, I hear you. Okay, be right back. I'm here. Okay. Okay. Oh, I forgot. I'm gonna... test it in a second. I turned off the voice over IP. Okay. Go ahead. All right, let's see. What else do we have to fix here today? Just a little bit more finessing. Everything had to be reset. I know. Can never be easy. Oh, jeez. Jeez Louise. Oh, well, connection is not great, but we're working. Let's see. Hello. We're here. Let's see. I don't know when y'all joined in. Maybe this is old, but we have internet. And I have a clogged ear. Don't know why. Anyway, okay. So, what's going on? It's been, golly, a long time. Can you believe it? An entire week gone because internet. So while we are waiting for 1 o'clock, I'll tell a little story about what happened. So last week there was a really big storm, and I just assumed it was from the storm because, you know, it seems to make sense. A lot of people lose internet, that kind of thing, because of the storm. So we didn't think too much of it and went ahead and, you know, sort of ignored it, let it go because it was Monday and we had scheduled it off and blah, blah, blah. But we had nothing, absolutely nothing on Monday. Tuesday it was shoddy, sort of off and on, and Wednesday comes and you know what happened. It all fell apart. So more testing, and what's crazy is, you know, everybody said, well, you know, you can tether on your cell phone. Well, of course we tried that, and the cell phone line was down too. Apparently, there's something up with the cell tower up here. So local telephone company and cell phone were both, shall we say, iffy at best. So we, anyway, so I called the cell phone company, and that's how I figured that out. And then we finally called the phone company on Wednesday after the live last week when this failed and said, hey, enough is enough. What is going on? So I guess I got a person who was kind to me, and he decided that he would send somebody out. And so this person came out on Wednesday, and he looked at the line. He goes, oh, your line is corroded, like bad. And that's why we've had intermittent service for actually months now. And I've been complaining about this for months, but yet I was told, you're fine, everything's fine. So I'm like, okay, I mean, how do you argue with all that when the lines have been tested? But when it's corroded, apparently it's intermittent. So that was on Wednesday. He supposedly got us back up and running, but of course by Friday morning it's kaput again. So for the Zoom on Friday, I hightailed it and did this out of a friend's garage. Oh, yay! That was sort of interesting and fun, but hey, there was way too many people that day to not follow through with the Zoom. So we had the Zoom on Friday, and then again, kaput. So finally, well, on Wednesday, they decided that they would, again, send somebody out. Actually, that somebody didn't even come out till Monday. So on Monday, they came out, was of course after the live, even though we got a little bit of service, was trying to work things out, but still wasn't working out, as y'all know. And so he came out, said the line was corroded, and literally they had to send a lineman out to pull a line from here all the way to the D-Slam, which is about, I'm guessing, a half mile, right, honey? A quarter mile? At least a quarter mile. Half mile. Andy's saying it's a half mile. So, of course, he had to pull a new line. He calls us yesterday, and I talked to him. Actually, he came here, and I talked to him. And it's, as Janet says, when it rains, it pours. So not only was the line corroded, but there's a new high school being built 3 doors down. We live a few doors down from the high school, and that high school has been built or was in process all summer. They cut the line. Yeah, So that's when it was like really absolutely nothing, right? So, yeah, totally crazy. He got that fixed. He came and tested it. Still didn't work. He's like, what the heck? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm pretty sure it's not my modem. So more testing, more lines, more everything, and here we are, finally. All I can say is through all this, we found out that they have pulled a fiber line up our street. And we are currently just waiting for the phone company to get around to just attaching our house to said fiber. I will tell you what, we get fiber, we're going T1, people. That's right. We're going to go as fast as we possibly can. It's really interesting. So that's exciting news. So what is the timeline for that? So I asked both of the repairmen who came out. I said, so what do you know? I'm thinking that the lineman would know because he had to put in the line, right? He goes, oh, they don't tell us that. It's when they get around to it. So it could be this week. It could be 6 months from now. But I would say somewhere between now and 6 months. Well, okay, sure. That's great. So what have I been doing for the last 10 days? Well, there was some relaxing because there was a holiday in there, just a little bit, but I've been working on virtually ever crafting this whole time, working on a very slow internet connection, but working, and we are this close to getting it up and live. So look for it. We'll probably do a soft launch tomorrow, if not Friday, not really announcing it. So if you happen to hit it, look around, see how it goes. But personally, I wouldn't register for any classes because I'm going to put out a coupon at the end of the week for Virtually Ever Crafting. So if you're excited for that, do hold out for a little bit longer. And but if you are playing around on the site and you find some mistakes, do me a favor and just send it out to me. I've had a lot of people volunteering, some of you who are out there volunteering to help proof the site, and that's been really great. We have 25 instructors and 90 classes for the next Virtually Ever Crafting on December 3rd through the 6th. So I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, it's so great. I'm so excited for that. Anyway, okay, it is 1 o'clock. Are we ready to start, honey? Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and start. It looks like everybody's here. Oh, and hey, honey, do you see there's a spammer on our Twitch page there? Yeah, he said, want to become famous? Yes, sure. So see if there's anything you can do about that. But anyway, so for those of you who are on Twitch right now, that's a spammer. Yay. So very interesting, very interesting. But yes, looks like Andy doesn't see it, but I see this guy. The answer is no. We'll figure it out on our own. Don't spam my page. Anyway, okay. So hi everybody on Facebook. Hello everybody on Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope. I think I am actually live on two Facebook pages, one my personal page and one on the Q Talk page. So we'll see whether or not I actually got that to program correctly. But that was my effort for last week. Didn't work out. But anyway, so it is Wednesday. Today is step-by-step surprise cold cuts. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I realize this is was supposed to be a 3-part project. So because of last week, we're going to make it a 2-part project. I'm just going to give you more information. So we're going to go over an hour today, which I tend to have a tendency to try to keep it within an hour. We'll probably go to, unless you were watching that one day where I was failing on the soldering, we went to an hour and 40. Anyway, so we'll probably go to about an hour and a half today is what I'm thinking. So what else is going on? If you're following along, Step-by-Step Surprise are projects that are a surprise project. So to participate, you have to order the kit. It is available online at our the Urban Beater website. I have provided the link in the Q Talk Facebook page, so you can go there. And the point is that you get to follow along week by week, and it's a surprise. You don't know what it is until you receive the project. The first hint is always the name, and then the second hint is if you look at the tools, it might tell you a little something about what we're doing. And I think most of you have figured out what we're doing here today. There was no torch, and it's called cold cut, so definitely we are doing a cold connection this week. And cuts, you can figure that one out, right? So anyway, that's my that's what's going to happen. We are definitely making a pendant because y'all got chain. And for those of you who are wondering, there are no specifics given during the live. You have to order the kit to get the gauges and the quantities and things like that. We'll just go through the process here so that people can follow along. And the instructions will come after the session and in your email if you've ordered the kit. So once again, thanks everyone for hanging out with me and being patient of our internet woes of last week. Let's get started. Oh, and I'm wearing my riveting shirt because of course we're going to be riveting. Okay, so let's get started. So the tools you need, there is like a lot of tools that you're going to need for this, a lot of small things. So I'm just going to go over some of the big ones as we will need them for today. Leather mallet, of course, a bench block, riveting hammer. As I said, we are doing cold connections, some shears because we are cutting, a saw, which means you'll need a bench pin, and some cut lube is always helpful. So there's that. A file. Some hand tools is always good to have around. So we're going to go with a chain nose and a pair of flush cutters. Now, because we're doing rivets and cold connections, I really would recommend that you do the Lindstrom flush cutters. We do have this on our website, and again, all these links are on the description of the Q Talk Facebook page. Okay, so some chain nose. Here we are. We're going to make holes with our 2-hole punch. Okay. Files, of course, because we're cutting metal and we're going to need to file that down. And then this is optional, but I have my stamping hammer and a decorative stamp. So if you wanted to create some interest, some texture in your piece, you can do it that way. Stamp of choice, of course, right? And of course, you know, we have a lot of stamps on our website. Divider. It's not required, but it's definitely helpful. So a good divider is something to have. A Sharpie, some sandpaper. At some point, we'll probably need some steel wool too, but that's it for right now. So many steps in this. That's why it was 3 parts. So we're going to go with 2 long parts today. In your kit, you should have gotten you all chose a stone. So I chose this one. I like the shape. I don't know if this is my shape of the year for the last 2 years maybe. And so we're going to go with, so I'm going with this shape, although some of you did choose a rectangle or an oval. It's only ever so slightly different, okay? But pretty much it's the same. Okay, so I was asked to let Lena know that we are on Twitch right now. So again, if you're all watching, we are supposedly on all platforms. Actually, we're on all four platforms because I can see people chatting away there. Okay, so okay, so here we go. So first things first, what you want to do is you want to trace your stone onto your metal. I'm doing brass and copper, although some of you did elect to do the silver. Okay, so you would start with this. If you're doing silver, you'll start with the silver first. Your brass is going to become your base plate. There's going to be two colors in this, and we're going to stack them. So the copper will be your accent piece on the outside. So we're going to start with either the brass or the silver, depending on what you're using. Okay. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this as much as possible in my piece to allow the maximum amount of space going around it. And then I'm going to trace it. Okay. So here, take out your fine tip Sharpie and give it a good trace like so. Okay. And then, so if you don't have a divider, you'll just use a Sharpie, but you're going to eyeball this, right? And you want to cut, or you want to draw a line on the inside like that. If you have a divider, you're going to crank this down between 3 and 4 millimeters on the inside of the shape, and we're going to score it. And you see, I have one on the outside and one on the inside, one of the legs on the outside, one on the inside, and I'm just going to follow this around like so, and we'll do it again and do it to the other side. Okay, there you go. This should be pretty easy to do on a rectangle and on an oval or a round. Okay, my shape is a little bit harder. So the next thing you'll do after that is you'll open this up to approximately the height of your stone. So basically you want to be, I'm going to say about 6 millimeters, because most of these stones are about 6 millimeters. So about that much. Can you see that? Oops. There you go. Okay, so it's just over the stone, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut tabs into this to go over, and you need that tab to be long enough to go over the stone. So just as long as you're long enough to go right over that curve, but not all the way to the middle, because it's just sort of not that attractive. So we're creating prongs or tabs. Okay, and same thing. So now we're going to do it on the outside, right? So we're going to trace this, oops, on the outside, like so. And we're using the tracing as a guide. And you should be able to see the score mark. You might not be able to see it here. Let's see. Yep, you can see how I scored it right there. And this was my easy way of getting to the shape without sitting here drawing and measuring, right? But if you had a template, you can use a template or a stencil. Okay. Okay, so then we're just going to take out our shears and we're going to cut this along the outside, okay? So, and we're not going to cut the middle until until after you cut the tabs, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay, if you cut the middle before you cut the tabs, it reduces the stability in the metal because you have this void, right? Okay. So I'm just gonna fix the shape to what I like. Just like so. So, you know, it was just sort of fun last week not having an internet connection and having to go into someone's garage, because in a couple weeks here, I'm going to take the show on the road. I'm going to house sit for a friend. So I am going to, while they're out of the country. So it was good practice, I guess, to figure out what all equipment I needed to make sure I had. So there you go. And so anyway, making the best of what's going on here. All right, so there's that. Let me get rid of this. I have a container to the left of my bench here for scraps. All right, so from here we're going to cut tabs. So you need to decide where these tabs are going to go. But you know what? I'm a little long here. I'm going to trim that first. I just want this really nice first before I do anything. Because once you cut those tabs, it's not as easy to trim and fix all of this, right? Because it's sort of like creating little voids along the way. And my shape isn't perfect, so I'm just going to do a little bit of filing here just to get that nice. Taking my time to be a little bit anal retentive, because I can. I feel sort of like, sort of out of practice. I feel like I haven't made jewelry in 2 weeks. And I guess this is a good thing because that we're doing a cold project, you know, instead of having a torch, since I feel sort of out of sorts here with not having done this. But I hope you all had a good holiday weekend. I realized it was a week and a half ago. So there. I know it is shocking to those of you who actually know me that, yes, we took some time off. And yes, we sat on the deck and had drinks. Actually, we talked about having drinks. So we sat on the deck and enjoyed each other. How's that? It was great. Before the storms came. Okay, much better. I feel better about my shape, that I don't have any wobbles. It's a nice shape. Actually, one more little wobble here. Okay, there we go. All right, let's flatten that a little bit. Just have a few little tiny wobbles in there. So with your leather mallet, you want to flatten that out just a little bit, okay? And make sure it's flat. There we go. All right, so then I'm going to put this back on, and I'm going to determine where I want to have my tabs. So where you want your tabs is just basically enough to hold them in. So you'll need at least 3, if not 4. So if you have a teardrop, you can get away with 3. So for instance here, right? Oops, we'll go with this one. Okay, so if you had a rectangle, you need to trap it in there. So to do that, you can go with the sides. But you know, another thing too is if you'd rather, you could go here in the corners, right? That's a possibility too. So they're just not as easy to bend over because of those corners, all right? And the same thing here. You could go here on the oval if you wanted to. So this also boils down to design. What do you prefer, okay? With the teardrop though, and mine's a marquee, so it's gonna be the same as the oval, okay? So I'm gonna come in from the sides, just as long as I have it so I can trap it in there. All right, so with the teardrop, what you'll do is you could go with the 4 or you can go with 3 and just put 1 here and the 2 up here, okay? So that's up to you. For me, I probably would have gone with a 3 because I like less prongs. All right. So I'm just going to space them out evenly. And what you want to do is you want to get it beyond this curve, because if you have it up here, like let's say we put 4, 2 here and 2 here, this will probably fall out. So if you put it in the narrows, then the fat part can't fall out, right? So we're going to go with here and here and over here. And you know, you could get really anal retentive about this, which I think I will show you. If you wanted to, you can pull out your divider and measure. So from the top, I'm going here, and I'll measure this side. Oh, that's pretty close. It's off by about 1.5 millimeters. And this one, same here. And we'll turn it this way and measure that. Do you see how I'm doing that? Okay. So this one's going to go here and here. And this one will go here and here. This one was slightly off, so we're going to go here. Okay, let's double check, make sure I actually thought about that correctly. That's to the outside. Oops, wrong direction. So we're gonna go, oops, can't see where I marked before. We're gonna go this direction here. Better. And again, remember, measuring twice, cut once, right? Okay, yep, we're good. So let's finish that out. I'm gonna change markers. Maybe I lost my marker. We're not changing markers. All right, let's see. I'm gonna go all the way out to the edge, like so. Now remember, the size of this tab is going to be at least the height or where your curve begins on your stone, right? Let's see, do I like that? Because this one is a little bit too out, so we're gonna go this way. So I try to make about the same angles. It'll be prettier. Okay. So we'll take out our saw. Lost my saw. Here we go. And we'll put that in. Saw blade in. Okay. Tighten that. Okay, so here's the thing. You can take out your shears and you can cut this, but what it will do is it will absolutely curl. It'll absolutely curl the metal, right? It'll warp the metal. So you want to go ahead and saw this. This will be best. All right. So give me a second. I'm going to change cameras, and I'll show you how to saw this. Moving down. Here we go. And Okay, so I'm going to just put this here and I'm just going to saw it right into those tabs. Oops, you know what? I didn't tighten this. All right. Long strokes, straight up and down, and I'm going right to the edge of that of the tracing to my stone. Okay. And we'll do that for all to create the 4 tabs. And I'm working in the middle of my bench pin to create leverage. And notice I'm using the whole length of my saw blade. I'm not doing this, okay? It's going to take forever. And I'm letting the saw blade glide and work on its own instead of forcing it. You don't want to push on it. You don't want to force it. And every so often I'm lubricating on the cut lube. And again, I don't know why it's fighting me today. There we go, straight up and down, right to that inside tracing. Ugh. Go to the last one here. Okay, totally like struggling today. There we go. Okay, so you can see from the back side that I have the cuts. There we go. Okay, so it looks just like that. And you can see from the front side how I did it. It's right to where I traced it, all right? To the outside line, not to the middle one. The middle one's getting cut out, and you need that bit of space for the stone to sit onto, all right? So now that I've done that, we can go ahead and bend them up. Pull out your chain nose pliers. I'm using my bent nose because I do love these, and I'm putting it right in there. Oops, where am I? I don't know why I'm, okay, we'll do like this. Let's see if I can get this camera to move here. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to bend it up. I'm bending it up now because, again, if you cut this out, you're going to lose that leverage, right? So we'll bend it up. And I have my pliers, the end of it, right to the edge of where I want it. Like so. Okay. And just see, I sort of bent it a little bit here. Let's just flatten that. If you have questions, do throw them out. Andy is with me today, of course. He's in my ear, talking to me, whispering sweet nothings, supposedly. I'm going to bend it up just like that, just to get him started. Have a nice bend on the bottom. So you see how it looks? There we are. And then on the back side. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and pierce a hole and then cut the middle out. I'm going to pierce a hole with a 2-hole punch, and I'm just going to choose one corner. because we're going to have to clean up that corner if you want this to be attractive. So there we are. We're creating the corner so that we can pierce out the middle. All right. Okay. There it is. I have a hole. Okay, so now we're going to put the saw blade in and saw the inside. Now I'm going to face the tracing up so I can see where I'm going. I'll put this right in here and put that in to the opposite end. Oops, I'm going to tighten it onto the saw blade, and then it's loose, still too loose, right? It's still too loose. So I'm going to open the back side and I'm pulling down on the saw blade while I tighten it here. And you can see, oops, you can see there. Okay. So now, a little more lube. All right. So now I'm going to saw that middle out, starting from that hole. Okay. So nice long strokes. This is going to take a minute. So go grab yourself a drink. Not enough time for a snack, but go grab yourself a drink while I do this. But I'm just going to saw this out. And this is along the inside tracing, right? So basically we are creating a small little ledge, approximately 3 millimeters is good. Now I'm getting to the corner, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to just saw straight up and down and turning my blade as I go to make a very tight turn and not a radius. So you just want to turn the blade while you're moving it in place up and down until you get your saw turned. And I keep moving it around my bench pin because I'm trying to find leverage, right? Okay, almost done. And voila. Doop. There we have that piece. We're going to save that piece because we're going to use it later. That'll be for next week. And then you see here, I have my piece. All right, so while I'm still here, I'm going to take out my needle file, and I'm actually going to file the inside of this because I sort of have a blooper there that's not a perfect shape from my piercing. If you want to and you have a smaller drill bit, I would go down to like a 1 millimeter drill bit and drill that hole. That's going to make it really nice and less cleanup as I'm doing here. I'm also taking this opportunity to make sure that my cut is nice because I have a small little like imperfection right here. So I'm going to fix that with filing. Okay. You could go ahead and do this on a flex shaft if you have like sanding discs and whatnot instead of doing it with a file, because I know how a lot of us, we just don't like to file. Still hanging in there with me? I know, it's a lot. Okay. So we're working on getting back in the groove of things this week. Okay, so my piercing has left, again, a wobble here. So I'm just going to take out my bench block. And, you know, it's too small for my, it is too small for my leather mallet, even the baby one. So I'm just going to take out my chasing hammer. And I'm going to fix that, you see. You see where I'm going with that? Okay. It's just a little tiny wobble. And again, you know, you want to fix it now because you won't be able to fix it later, okay? Because we're going to then attach the two pieces. How are you going to get to it? You won't be able to. All right, so I'm going to fix my shape a little tiny bit here. Okay. Whatever you have going on. Make it nice. All right, so you'll probably have some sharp edges. We'll clean it up. You don't have to clean up the bottom so much because we're going to be attaching it down. But some of this stuff, if it looks rough, you might want to just take it off. If you have any file marks, you want to go ahead and take that off too. And I'm using my bench pin for leverage so then I don't accidentally warp this thing. See how I'm doing that? Okay. I'm just holding it off the edge. All right. And then I'm going to take my needle file. So these openings here are a little sharp. So I'm just going to put my needle file in there and I'm going to file those corners off just a little tiny bit. And I'm using my bench pin to do this because if not, it's going to warp. Just going to take off that corner just a little tiny bit. Everything that's sharp, I'm going to run the file on the corner. It creates a tiny little radius, which is okay, but it just makes it look really nice, especially if you're working on the silver. This was not a very cheap kit because, you know, there was a nice piece of silver and there was this expensive cabochon. Well, sort of expensive. It wasn't a ton. But, so you want to take the time to do it right? Okay. Another thing too is these prongs are going to be a little bit sharp too. So I'm going to go ahead and file that just a little tiny bit. And I'm going to take off a little bit of that sharpness. Mostly the corners. I like my corners. I never like square corners. I like my corners with a tiny bit of a radius. I mean, even if it's ever so small, I do like a little bit of a radius on there. Okay. And you can see how quickly I'm going through this because I'm just doing a little bit, right? And then let's put it in. Let's see. Ah, look at that. Okay. So it's pretty close. It's pretty close. I see that I have this one, well, depending on where I go here. Yeah, I'm going to cut a little bit more. It's tiny. You see that tiny little bit of space there? Okay, so I'm going to cut in a little tiny bit more on those two tabs. So what are we going to do with this week's project that didn't happen? I'm going to push it into October. Someone did note that, hey, I have less work to do for October. That would be true. Okay, so not to worry if you like it. The instruction sheets are already out there on the on the Urban Beater page. So here all I'm doing is I'm cutting in a little bit more to make the tabs a little bit tighter. Okay. And I'll take out my chain nose and adjust just a little bit more. Just like that. And that should tighten it up. All right, so next up, we're going to take out our copper. And again, this one I'm not going to make perfect. Do I want to make it perfect? I don't know. Maybe. I'll think about it for a second here. But it's more fun if you make an organic shape around the around your silver or brass. And heck, if you wanted to, I suppose you could just leave it like that, right? But that's a really big pendant. Okay, so that's going to be like 2.5 inches. That's going to be a really big pendant. So I'll trim some of that off. And I'm just going to sort of haphazardly trace it around. Wah! So if you're watching Twitch, do say hello. If you're watching Facebook, do give us a like. Let us know you're out there. Say hello and tell us where you're watching from. Especially if you haven't been here before. And by the way, thanks everyone who is subscribing. I really appreciate that. So again, we can do the same thing. So I just traced it. So you do the same thing and create a border around it. All right. And trace it just like so. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just doing it quickly and a little haphazardly because I know it's going to be a shock. The fact that I'm doing something a little bit more on the organic side, not very typical for me. But here we are. I had to change it up. You know, it's a surprise project, so I'm trying to keep it a little bit different from everything that I do. Just challenging. I mean, come on. If you only do what I do, it's boring after a while, right? So, and I'm gonna have to say I really am pleased with the name. I was so excited when I said, hey, how about cold cuts? Haha. You know, I like the play on words. So here I'm just trimming it so you can see. It's still quite large. Let's put it down and take a look. Okay, you can't see that. It's too much reflection. All right. There we go. Yeah, it feels really big, so I'm going to trim it down some more. Okay, that's up to you. And again, I want this to be not exactly perfect, so I'm just going to do it by eye, like so. And I'm going to round it out just to make it a little bit more interesting. Like that. Again, you can do a rectangle if you wanted to. That works. It all works. There we go. Okay. So it's approximately 5 millimeters or so beyond the shape. Okay. And then what's going to happen is we're going to go right in here, like so. See? Okay. So now we want to go ahead and do some finishing work on this piece. So some quick filing. My cut's not perfect, taking out some wobbles. You know, crinkles and wobbles aren't great. It doesn't exactly mean it's an organic shape. An organic shape means it's not consistent. But still, wobbles are a little bit different for me. Okay. This is my attempt to do organic. It's not working out. I'm going to tendency to go back and make it perfect. Okay. And then you can see it's sort of undulating a little bit from the cut. We'll go ahead and pull out the leather mallet. And I can use my little one because we like our baby mallet. And we're just making it nice and flat. so. Okay. All right. So next up, let's attach these pieces, okay? So we're going to take our 2-hole punch and we're going to use the smaller side of the 2-hole punch, all right? And we're going to make 4 holes and attach this to your copper. So you're attaching your silver or your brass to your copper. And let's see, where do I want to go? I don't need to know that. I'm gonna go there. And there, okay? And then again, to measure, I'm gonna go halfway here too, and to measure that, I'm just gonna take out my divider to find the halfway point. So it's approximate, because what's gonna happen is, if you do it like this is really cool, right? So we're gonna go here and mark it there, and I'm gonna go this way. Ooh, I got it almost exact. And so if it's not exact and you have 2 marks, in between is middle, right? So this is good enough. Another thing too that you can do, if you want to, is just for fun, instead of doing 1, right, you can do 3 or 2. It doesn't matter. And you see, it becomes a design element. You know, it's so funny. I say that. I'm like, huh, I think I might do that. Okay, we're just going to go with 1. Like, that's way too much work. But you can definitely do 2 or 3 and create a design element out of it, okay? Because they're going to be solid rivets. All right, we'll take out our 2-hole, and I like to draw it down close, or else it's just flailing all over the place. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with the 2-hole punch, but you just take this out. There's 2 sizes. Remember that. All 2-hole punches have 2 sizes. So you want to pick the smaller one, and we're just going to crank down. Did you see how it released? As soon as it releases, actually I'm going to go a little further, you can pull it back up, and voila, you have a hole. And actually mine's old, as you can tell, and it's not making a great hole, so I'm going to have to replace this. So if you don't have one of these, I just love these because I don't have to pull out a drill or my flex shaft, and it's just done. You know, I remember when I bought my first one, I was just like, oh dear God, really? But back then in the beginning, any tool over $10 was a lot. So I sucked it up and I bought it, and I haven't regretted it. I have not regretted it since. I love this little tool. Okay, so again, because it's nice, it gives you 2 sizes of holes to work with. Okay, and we're going to use both sizes for this project. So I guess somebody asked, what are the sizes? It's 1.6 and 2.3 millimeters is your size, are your sizes. Okay. There we go. So you can, oops, that was only 3. We'll go with number 4 here. Okay. Done deal. And you'll see that I have little burrs, right, at the hole, at the piercing junction here. So it looks on the, you can see it from the back. It's just tiny little burrs, which is fine. I'm just going to put it right in here and flatten it. And I'm actually going to pull out my riveting hammer because it's the smallest hammer I have. And I'm going to flatten that back out. Okay. Like so. Okay. And if you wanted to texturize, we can texturize either plate before you cut and pierce and do all that. You do want to do your texturing if that's something you want to do. I'm going to go ahead and do it on here. And we'll just do that really quickly. I'm using a spiral stamp and my stamping hammer. And I am just really going to just haphazardly go right in here and start texturizing this. Okay, better to stand when I'm stamping because that's just me. So I'm just going along the edge because that's all you're going to see anyway. So you really don't need to do anything else. If you don't have any stamping hammers, you know, take out the back end of your chasing hammer and you can do that. You can do hashes too if you wanted to, if you had something with a blade on it, like the like your riveting hammer, right? If it's got a blade on it, you can make little hashes. In fact, I'll go ahead and make some of the hashes on the brass too. Just move this over a little bit. Again, not being really organized about this because I just want to create texture. This is a really large stamp. That's why I'm hitting it twice. So the larger your stamp, the harder you're going to have to hit it. More than likely you'll go twice. And I'm going to go back and put some in between. Oh! You know, that's what happens when you get distracted. Focus when you're stamping so you don't lose a finger. Jeez, Q. Okay. Getting there. Pretty close. I like it. You see? It's just some swirls, just to give it some texture, some interest, some overlaps here and there, which is nice. Also, I'm going to overlap on this side too. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out the big mallet and flatten that out. Just like so. If you wanted to, you can anneal this to get it to flatten out a little bit better for you. You can also take out a secondary bench block. You know how I love to have second bench blocks. And do that. And it's getting there. It's a little springy because I've been playing with it. Okay. Really not the move to, I haven't even turned on my pickle pot, so I really don't want to anneal this because I don't want to pickle it. So you just want to try to get that flattened. Okay. Okie dokie. Now next up, we're going to pierce holes in this one. So the easiest way to make sure that you are in the right place is to take what you've made as a template and trace the holes down. Right, is that where I want to be? Pretty much. Okay. Right in there. All 4 spots. Take out that Sharpie. Oops. All right. Wrong direction. Yes, I feel like I'm out of practice. I know, a week away from this. 2 weeks away from this, and I feel like I'm out of practice. Okay. There we are. And going back over it. Okay. And you know, as I put it down, I see, I would like to put a little bit more texture so it's right up to the edge so I don't have any bare spots. I'm going to go ahead and texture it a little tiny bit more here. And this is, you know, again, this is work in progress. You've got to pay attention to what you're doing and see what kind of adjustments you make. It's not finite, right? So I'm just identifying where my voids are to create more texture. That's all. Because I want right up to the edge underneath the stone. And again, you don't have to texturize this at all if you don't want to. And you know, another thing I'm going to do here too, so I can remember which way, just in case my piece churns. Just in case it churns. Because nothing's perfect. I am going to mark, you see that? I'm going to mark from the middle to the outside so I know which way is which. And I'm also putting this back on to make sure that I've done a nice texture job right to that edge. Okay, so for this piece, I'm going to go ahead and put a little tiny bit of texture on there with, and I'm going to use my, my riveting hammer. And I'm going to use the blade on there. I'm just going to create a little bit of hashing. Not a ton, just a little bit in the middle because I can. Okay, so just in the middle. I don't know, do I want it anywhere else? Sure, why not? Try not to hit your tabs. I already hit one. Oops. Probably would have been smarter to do this before I cut the tabs, but oh well. Again, just sort of playing. Haven't decided how I want it to look yet. And by the way, yes, I will be on Twitch this weekend because, you know, we have internet. Okay, so here, I'm going to move this back up because I hit it. Okay, there we are. And we'll do a little flattening. All right, so now we're going to pierce our holes there also. Small hole. And this will slide right in. And again, I like to crank it close so that it's not flailing all over the place, the metal. I didn't realize how dull my 2-hole cutter is. I am going to have to replace that. Okay. I'm just double checking here to make sure that my marks are still in place. So just remember, if you have one of these, because you know they're fairly, for me, I think they're not expensive, but they're not cheap either. So if you need a new, if you have a dull cutter like mine is, right? One of these parts, you can totally replace it. I think it's like $5 or $6, and we have them on our website. So it's nice. And every so often, okay, these things are only rated for 22, but I know most of you have done 18 on these. Not guilty. But, so you probably broke one or two. So just remember, they are replaceable. And I keep putting this back on to make sure that my marks are in the right place and that I've done a good job. Because, you know, things move around and they shift and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And then, oh, I lied. Andy's telling me that the punch replacements on our website is only $3.50, and here I thought was $5 or $6. See? Oh, look, it's a sale all of a sudden. Just kidding. Okay. There we are. And again, because I have these little warps in here, I'm just going to use my... This is the back side, it's exposed, so I just want to push it down a little bit. Like so, okay. Okay, then you have some of that heavy duty wire that was in your kit. And because it's so heavy, I'm going to go ahead and take out my, heavy duty cutter to use it on there. Okay. If you don't have a nice flush cutter, you do want to make the end flush. So I'm going to do that on one end here first. And let's see, you need to be shaped a little bit. Let's see if I can get some of that down. Just to try to flatten that a little bit because it warped from my texturing. Right? Okay. Okay, so here, the end that I just filed will go down. And why are you not going through? Did I pick the wrong wire? I have two pieces of wire on my, yeah, wrong wire. I picked up the wrong piece of wire here. So we'll cut it like so. Put it in. Oops. You see that? So I'm putting that in there and I'm leaving it long, okay? And I'll just trim it off this side. Okay, so I just trimmed it and this will push back over. And you want it to be about 2 millimeters or so. Like so. I'm going to cut it off. Okay. So can you see that? Okay. Okay. So there we are. It's about 1 millimeter on each side, and I dropped it. This is where the tweezers come back into play, because picking that up is no fun. So I'm going to put it in. You can take out your chasing hammer, or you can take out your riveting hammer, and we're just going to smash it in there. Okay, it's splayed a little bit. I'm going to flip it over, and notice I'm flipping it over on the edge so that my prongs are sticking out. And I'm going to do it on this side. And then, ooh, okay. Yep, screwed that up. I bent it. So we'll take that off and do it again. All right, where's my cutter? Okay, again, make sure it's nice and flush on at least one side there. On the back side is nice. Put it back in. Make sure you chose the right hole and not flip-flop it, because, you know, this might not be perfect. So we'll put that down like so. Give it a little trim. And let's see. And actually, I feel like this hammer is a little bit light right now for me. So I'm going to pull out my chasing hammer and knock it out. Okay. Did you see that? It went flying. It's on the carpet somewhere. I'm not going to go looking for it. Let's do that. Third time's a charm, right? Okay. Just like so. Okay, teeny weeny bit long. Go back in. Tweezers. Where'd my tweezers go? Can you see that? You see how it fell over? It fell over and out. Okay. Trim that a little bit more. There we go. Try to get that nice and straight up and down. There we are. And I still did it uneven again. Can you see that? Can you see that I'm not hitting straight, and that's the problem, is I'm not hitting particularly straight. Let's see if I can work it in there. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take this out and see if I can move it right back in instead of cutting another one. There we are. Flip it over on this side. Yep. Took a little effort, but it did it. Okay? You can see how nice and flush that is. And you can see the back side. It's splayed. The wire's splayed, which means it's not going anywhere. All right. Now for the other ones. And I keep cutting the ends off because if I created a bevel, then you need to take that bevel off, or this is not going to be a good time. Okay, now we'll do the next 3. I like to work in opposites. So here I'm holding it really nice and tight. Let's put it down like so. Okay, trim that. Flip it over. So I get it started to put it in place, and then I flip it over and do the other side. Just to make sure that you're splaying it nice and evenly. Okay, nice. Okay, so you see, I now have 2 rivets in there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the other 2. Again, always trimming it, trimming off any beveled edges. with your tweezers. Let's put it back in. Okay, so this is the third one. So now you know why I didn't go for 3 on each side, right? It'd be sort of like watching paint dry. Flipping it over. Again, I'm being careful every time to make sure that my prongs are not on top of the bench blocks, the tabs, and I'm hanging it off. And so basically what you're doing, technical term here, you're mushing it down and you're splaying out the wire so it spreads in the hole and creates a connection. That's all riveting is, really. It's pretty simple. Okay, so I have a slight mistake here. I don't know if you can see that, but tiny little bit of the hole slightly off, which means there's no chance that this wire is going to fit. So how am I going to correct that? Pretty easily. I'm just going to put it right back in and line this up from the top, because I don't care really what it looks like on the bottom. It's more about what's on the top, right? So I'm going to put this right into the hole and drill it again, and that will correct it for me. And you'll see it from the back side here in a second, how the correction will look. So you'll see this hole, it's slightly too big, right? And again, my cutter wasn't great, so I'm going to trim it. Okay. And then we'll cut this again. Put it in. Dope. Okay, so this one's going to be a little loose because I made the hole bigger. So when you're doing this kind of rivet, you want to make sure that the hole is really, really tight to the wire, okay? If you don't know what the drill bit size is, I do have it on my website at qfomgray.com. So I have a lot of charts up there. I have like the ring chart, I have the drill bit chart, gauge chart, all that, just to keep it in one place. And you know, I don't know why, it wasn't until this past year that I posted it. It was somebody, one of you mentioned something about that and went, you know what? I should just put it up there for me. Then I have a good place to always have it and look for it. So you can use that as a resource, definitely. Okay. So this guy's, the hole is a little big, and I can tell you he's going to be challenging. So let's see if I can get it done. Yeah, popped right out. But that's okay, because he splayed just a little bit. You see that fell right through. Oops. And then it popped that way. Let's see if I can find it this time. Yep. Right there. Okay. I'm sorry, honey, what was the question? So the question is, how do you avoid denting the top piece when you splay the rivet? Well, supposedly the piece is still sitting on top, right? Or the rivet is taller than the rest of the pieces, so you really shouldn't be marring or denting your metal. If you go too far, that's when it happens, right? And another thing too is when you are hammering, you don't want to hammer at an angle. You want to hammer straight up and down, right? So if you're hammering at an angle, you're going to create little dinks. So make sure that you're hammering straight up and down, which clearly I'm not doing a great job of. But maybe you should just texturize the whole thing. We call it good. Then it wouldn't happen. Okay, so here we go. Flip it over. Oh, did I do it? Okay, so here's what I did. I'm going to do it one more time. It's in. I don't love it, right? Because look, on the back side, it bent over. This will work, but it's not great. So let's do it one more time. So how do we remove it? Just going to take out that flush cutter and cut it off. There we go. So I'm going to do it one more time. But you know what? I'm wondering if I go to a heavier piece of wire, because remember, I sort of screwed up the hole because I had to recut it. So it's really loosey-goosey in there. See, is this a bigger wire? I think it's a bigger wire. Hold on. I'm going to see if I have a slightly bigger wire. This is going to be my fix for this. Nope, not you. Let's see if you fit. If you don't fit, we go with that. Eek. Okay, actually this one will fit. So I'm going to go with this one because it's really tight in there. When it's too loose, you see I'm just struggling with it. So I'm going to help myself. And I'm going to go with the bigger wire. So make sure that you're precise with your cuts. All right, this is going to happen really nice and easily, which is great. Okay, there we go. See how easily that went in? And it's actually prettier than the rest of them, but okay. Just coming from the back side and finishing that off. There we are. Okay. Okay. So I'm just coming in from the back a little bit and I'm hammering it down because it's a little bit, shall we say, burry. So flatten it out to reduce any sharpness. And as you know, I like to stroke my piece just to look for any sharpness, and that's what I'm doing when I'm stroking the piece. Okay, so if you still have any sharpness on the back or on the front, just take out some sandpaper and sand that down, okay? So here we are. Let's see, what else can we do here? Don't know if I love the shape, so you know, if I don't love it so much, we'll just trim it and or not. Anyway, so from here, what you need to do is you need to decide how you want this to hang. Okay, so do you want it to hang this way or do you want it to hang this way? That's up to you. Okay, so if you want to hang it this way, because it's become so big, you don't want to put it out here because it's not going to hang correctly. You want to put the holes up here, okay? But that's it for today. It's a lot of stuff in one shot. Let's review what we did, okay? Oh, and then I'll tell you what your homework is. So what we did was we took out our stone. Ooh. We took out our stone and we traced it onto our metal. We did and then we created two lines on the inside and on the outside of the metal so that we would have a frame like so. We cut tabs into it with a saw. We sawed out the middle and then we riveted down to the back plate. You also trimmed and cut a back plate for this, and we also texturize it. One other thing I want to show you too is do you see here? I have a different tab. I put in triangles in here. And although this is really cute, it's a bit challenging. So it's an option for you. It's not necessarily a great option depending on your stone and how much metal you have. Because remember, you have to have enough metal to go over the stone. So if you don't have enough metal, you do want to go ahead and go with the rectangle tab. But this is sort of cute, right? To have a triangle like so. I was just playing around last week with that. So, okay, that's it. Does anybody have any questions at all? That should be a really good start. Your homework is going to be with the cutout that you have. Go ahead and sand and file it and make it really nice and pretty. If you want to texture it, go ahead and texture it. Okay, so the question is, why do we have to have an opening? Frankly, you don't. You don't have to have an opening at all. The reason for the opening here, for me, was because if you were using silver, this was a very expensive piece of metal to be covering up. So why not cut it and use it for something else? That's where I went with it. For this project, we are going to use that. If you're using this process for other things, you do not have to cut out the back, right? So especially for the middle one. You can also, though, if you want to see the stone and have it two-sided, you can cut out the copper piece also so that you can expose the stone. Again, those are just design preferences, and as far as the middle, again, it is sort of a frugal decision, is to save all that metal, because it's a fairly substantial piece of metal to be throwing away. Let me see, how big is this? My ruler is stuck down here. I'll show you. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's about 1 5/8 inches on that, which means it's a substantial piece of silver. So we're going to use that. And I can't think. Oh, I apologize. Okay, you do need to. Your copper was bigger than mine. Okay, but you do need to make sure you reserve a piece of copper for the next piece, because we're going to do a back plate on that one also. Sorry, big reflection there, so we can see that. So we're going to cut a second piece out of the copper for the back plate. You should have enough metal for that. Okay, so that was your homework. Make sure you clean up that cutout. You're riveting, you're sawing, you're making tabs. We'll set it next week. We'll put all the pieces together. So that's it for now, unless you have a question. I'm going to pray that the internet continues this way, and I will see everybody. We have a Zoom this week, right? We have a Zoom this week. I can't remember which one, but we have a Zoom this week. And I think it is, let's see, let me think about this. Honey, can you look up what the Zoom is this week? I can't remember. It's either Off Balance or Verano, the beach glass piece. There we are. So we have that coming up on our Zooms. Oh, Off Balance is this week. Oh, love this project. Still haven't glued my pearl in yet because I still can't decide which one I want to do, which color I want to do. Oh, don't. And then next Monday, we'll be back with, I think, the chevron pearl. Okay, so there we are. So there's Off Balance. I'm digging this ring. I'll probably wear, this is probably going to be my new ring. But as you can see, I've been wearing Lily of the Valley because I love it. Anyway, so Off Balance is on Friday for those of you who are signed up for that. You can still register for that if you are interested. It's going to be on our website on Monday. Otherwise, I will see everybody maybe on Twitch on Sunday if you're on Twitch. And but on Monday we'll do the chevron pendant. Okay, and that's Minimal Metal Monday, and we'll be back at 1 o'clock. All right, so have a great weekend if I don't see you, and thanks for hanging out. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for even coming back after all that debacle of the last week. But excited to be back. Excited for good running internet, and look for the announcement for Virtually Ever Crafting. We're going to go live here in the next few days. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you.